Good morning, Rabbi Beitzah. Shalom Aleichem, new guy. How are you? Today's shir is sponsored by Dovi Hershberg. Remember him? That's right. In honor, you're not going to believe this. Another guy called me up, and I knew it's going to happen. People will be inspired by this Dovi. So he doesn't chab. Not only did he do what he did, but he inspired other people to give as well. In honor of my partner Shlomo Schwed, starting the Daf. Welcome, Shlomo. By Joel Mizrahi, Lili Nishmat, my grandfather Jemil ben Hasna, on his 43rd Azkara, and for Hakarat HaTov.
Says it like that?
You want to see? Bidyu kacha. For Hakarat HaTov, to all the MDY and Rav Eli for turning the Daf. You don't want to say like Ashkenazi. This is not an Ashkenazi name. Jemil ben Hasna. No, you got to say it the right. Hakarat HaTov to all MDY and Rav Eli for turning the Daf of our lives in the right direction. Only from a Sephardi, such a line. Rabbi Isai, today is the official launch of the new Masechta of Rosh Hashanah. So bring your friends, and your friends will get a free Gemara for Rosh Hashanah. And there's a major announcement coming out tomorrow. Major. Listen. Major announcement coming out. Maybe in 2 days. Maybe in 2 days from now.
So you can do the part that they're reading now.
I'll tell you after share. If you really want to know.
Turn the camera off.
Wow, the Olam is really. Listen to this. 500 shiurim. That's the name of the email from Loser J, Laws Jacobson, from Edgware, London. I joined Tavshin Pei. Chesier Tavshin Pei. Haven't seen a leak. The Gabriel Emanuel sponsored the shir. Listen to this. You have to listen to every word of this email. He saw a link from Gabriel Emanuel sponsored the shir as Refuas and Yeshuos for the Zeliger brothers. Is that how you pronounce it? Zeliger. They live on, what's the name of the street? Leicester Street. My life can really be summed up as before that date and since. In addition to the 7 Masechtas that I've learned with you, I've learned much more in the small things that you probably are not aware of, such as not buttoning your sleeve. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't say that. The feelings that you have for each fellow Yid and all the advice and mussar that you give along the way is something unmatched. Now, 500 days later, my life has literally changed. I'll be honest with you. I'm not someone who's never opened up a sefer or finished a Masechta. I was in learning for about 10 years after my Hasna. But the commitment to your daf has ensured that I won't allow a day to go by without learning. I can't say that I've listened in full to every single shir of these 500, but of the handful of shirim that I've missed, I've always tuned in for the emails to see what Yosef has edited. Nowadays, I'm known locally as the poster boy of MDY. As you can see my picture all over town, apparently even in the Kedah Bezdin. I'm ever grateful to you and all those involved in this Avos HaKodesh. I'm not going to list them, but Yosef, Yeshua, Gary, etc., you know who you are. I'm also very grateful for all the great friends I've met along the way: Avi Sherman, Aaron Hirsch, Adam Labato, Harala Shalom, Binyamin Kessler, Chacham Nacham, Naftali Horowitz, etc., and of course Yosef Biliak and Chef A, something like that. I don't know what that is. And now, that's 5-ish. And now for the puncher. Don't miss this bit. The Yid in whose chus it was that I even discovered your shir. In other words, so at the beginning of the email, he writes that Gabriel Emanuel sponsored the shirs. We're forced for this. How do you pronounce? Zeliger, bro. Has made a miraculous recovery from COVID. Mr. Eli Zeliger joined MDY for Sukkah. Wishing you a Gemar Chasim Toiva laws. Gewaldige stuff. Another guy from England, Ari Mechlowitz. Hi, Rebbe Mishpacha. I started the Daf following your shir from the beginning of Pesachim. I have missed the day of Daf. I was recommended by my father Gigi, who's been following the shir for a few years and completed a previous cycle. I've also recommended a few people who are now hooked. On Friday, a few days ago, Daf Yud, my wife was in labor in the hospital, but not much was happening. It was calm due to epidural. It came to 5:15 a.m. And since I was awake, I decided to log on to live shir and Zoom. You had barely got just through the sponsors, and from nowhere, 4 doctors rushed in, threw me some scrubs, and put my wife in rush. Listen, Torah is the school for the Yitzhar to come at any time. You're waiting in line for anything, just open up a Gemara, it's going to happen. It's 100%. It's the known Zgula. Put a C-section. Baruch Hashem, my baby daughter was born safely a few minutes later. Wife is, everybody's great. Also managed to get through most of the daf before Shabbos. I managed to get the hospital Shabbos. Picture of me doing today's daf at home with my 2-day-old baby and one in scrubs when she was born. Thank you for all the effort you put into preparing the shir. Wishing you a mishpach gemar chasim toiva. Ari Mechlowitz. P.S. Unfortunately, the day's daf didn't give me any inspiration for the name. I don't like Kvi, Koi, or Dov. Here he is. Rabbi Isai. Valdic stuff. By the way, I want to bring Mori Tifferbaum's picture. Again? No, I want to know. I want to bring, I looked at it again. I didn't like chap how the baby's concentrating on the screen. Instead of teaching these kids, Sesame Street and Elmo and all that. Tyra, get them. It says in the Gemara, the mother, who? Rabbi Yeshua's mother brought the stroller to the Beis Medrash. Exactly. All right. Here we go. Daf Yud Gimel. Today we're 9 lines from the bottom Yud Beis, Amud Beis. What happened? He said, if you didn't hear Dr. Factor said all the Jewish babies will do Okay. Ushpezichna de Rava Barav Chanan Havelei Isur Yasa de Chardala. The host of Rava Barav Chanan had some stalks of mustard, like this, mustard stalks. So he asked the Shaila, Omar lei ma'u lefaruchi umechal minayo biyantif. Can I rub them here? So I brought, actually, we got a lot of hands-on today, not a lot, but we're going to do this here. This is faruche. I know this is going to bring back very good memories. This is a peanut. And you go like this. It depends on the Gemara. 1 finger, 2 fingers, And now that's over here, you could go. And now you have this. Gewaldige stuff. Unbelievable. So, could you do that? Now, what's the problem? That's dush. But doing it with your hand is kilach yad. And you could have done this Erev Shabbos. Now Erev Yontif. You could have done Erev Yontif. So what's the halacha? We have v'yadeh. Because why is it kilach yad? You do it with a machine. You do it with a device. You don't do it. Nobody takes 1,000 of beans or whatever it is of mustard. You're in the mustard business. You're going to take all the mustard and go like this. You have a device. You do it with. Do it with your fingers is kilach yad. It's not the proper way to do it. On the other hand, you could have done this melacha, whatever this is. You could have done it before. We're going to see tomorrow a little bit more about that. You could have done stuff before Yontav. You shouldn't do it today. Rava Bar Chanan didn't know what to say. The Rava, he came to the real Rava. Omar lei melilois umefarchim kitnis b'Yontav. You're permitted to do so on Yontav cause it's kalach yad and it's fine. Okay. So you're telling me you're allowed to do this malacha on Yontav. Meaning, you have this, whatever you want to call it, beforehand, this is not chayev in Trumas HaMaisrus. It's not finished. It's not Gemar Malacha. Here, so I have something else to show you before we get there. You could go from hand to hand. V'oichel. So I wanted to point out here is just a pasha pshat in the Gemara, so you don't forget it. Miyad liyad is different than al yad. Miyad al yad, just simple pshat taich. Miyad al yad means hand to hand, like over here. You're taking these nuts, these peanuts, and you're going like this, so the shell flies off by itself. So you're allowed to do that. Erev Shabbos. If you did this Erev Shabbos, so on Shabbos itself, you're allowed to, move them from hand to hand, And that's a problem of zoyre, not zoyreya, zoyre with a hay, which would mean, like in the time, you throw it up in the air and the wind comes and blows off the shell. And you could go ahead and eat it. Avaloi bekanon v'loi b'tamchui. Kanon v'tamchui are these two guys. On Shabbos, we're more machmer. You can't use these guys, these devices that help it. Hamoilo melilas ma'erev yantiv, but yantiv is different. If the same thing you do at erev yantiv, l'machar min ha'peyach al yad, so pay attention. Al yad over here does not mean from hand to hand. Over here it means it's in your hand. It's a small amount. It's an amount. In other words, that you can't go crazy and do a tremendous amount. You do a little bit, the amount that you need now. Afilu b'kanan v'afilu b'tamchut. You could use these two devices on top, but you can't use the real professional ones. Avaloi b'tavelu v'napa, avaloi b'tavelu v'napa avaloi b'kvara. Fine. You can't use like a big plate, a napo kvara. These are kind of sifters that you cannot use on Yontiv. So asks the Gemara, Erev Yontiv in, Yontiv Loi. It just said, when can you do all this? If you started out the process, you went with your fingers like this on Erev Yontiv, then you're permitted to blow it and do this and that on Yontiv. But it seems like you cannot remove, you can't start rubbing it on Yontiv itself. Says the Gemara, interesting teretz. No, you could do it on Yontiv. So why does it say Erev Yontiv? You medayik Erev Yontiv. It does say Mefurish Erev Yontiv. Why? Because it fits, it flows with the Reisha. The Reisha obviously is talking about Erev Shabbos. You cannot do it on Shabbos. It would be Dash. But on Yontiv you could do for, there's Heterim for Eichel Nefesh and this and that. So on Yontiv it's okay. It just says the word Erev Yontiv, a little bit of a tchak. Okay, and that's the Gemara. Okay. Bottom line is, you're allowed to take this peanut and remove the shell on Yontif with your fingers. So it comes out like this. When it comes to truma, two very important things have to happen. In order to be chayiv in truma, you have grain. In order to be chayiv in truma, first of all, it has to see pnei abayis. It has to come in from the front door. And if you sneak in from the window, you sneak the food in from the window, you're not chayiv. Second of all, you have to smooth out the pile. Here's the guy with the tool, smooth it out. Miruach hakri. In other words, it has to be a gemar malacha. That's how I say that I finished doing what I need to do. I have a pile, it's nice and smooth. Oh, now I'm chayiv in truma. Before that, you're not chayiv in truma d'oraisa. Ask the Gemara. But if I'm permitted to take off the shell on Yontif with my finger, so that's the Gemar Melacha. So now it comes out that I could be mechayiv myself on Truma on Yontif. What did we say yesterday? The only thing you're allowed to take on Yontif is challah. Why can I take only challah on Yontif? It's a type of Truma. Because I'm permitted to bake a bread on Yontif, because it's nice and hot. But I cannot take truma on Yontif because it's misake mana, I'm fixing it. But if I'm permitted to take off this thing and make a gemar melacha, I'm finishing it up. So now, why is it different than challah? Just like I'm allowed to bake bread on Yontif, so I'm allowed to go like this with my peanut, and then I should be chayav for truma on Yontif itself. Usnan lo yamartem truma shenizake bar masod. Yesterday we said a number of times that you cannot take truma on Yontif. There's no way to take truma on Yontif. Says the Gemara, and I'm going to tell you that the end of the sugya, well, it's only a few lines. Enchanami, you could take. There are, in a very specific way. If you go like this with the peanut, you chayiv, enchanami, but typically not. So the first teretz says, like Hashia, Harebi Yosi, top of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, Rebbe Yehuda. Okay, yes, you're right. According to one Manda Omar called Rebbe, you're chayiv on Yontif to take truma, real truma, the sanya. If you brought in the grain into your house in order to make dough, bread. Now, there's another halacha when it comes to truma. You're only chayiv when it's an achilas kva. But when it's an achilas aray, it's a temporary kind of snack, then you don't have to take truma. So you're allowed to eat a little bit. You're allowed to nibble on it, pick at it, and then you don't have to take truma. But if you're going to rub it like this and take off the shell, Rebbe Mechayev, here you go. This is the Rebbe in Chanami. According to Rebbe on Yontif, if you go like this, you take off the shell, you're Chayev in Truma. Rebbe Yossi, Rebbe Yehuda, Poiter. Rebbe Yossi says you are Potter. Okay, so according to that, to one man Domar Rebbe, you're Chayev in Chanami. It's not according to everybody. As the Gemara, it is according to everybody. Well, Rebbe Yossi, Rebbe Yehuda, Nami, Mishkachas Loki Goin, Shehichnes Shibalim Lasis Mamisa. This is a very, very interesting line over here. What happened was you had in mind to bake bread. So you brought it through the door, but you didn't finish the kri yet. Yeah, you did one out of two things. You brought it through the door. Do you have a gemar malacha? Did you finish it off? No, because you didn't do this. Okay, so now it's sitting in your house in a very sloppy pile. So your machshava was to bake bread. And tomorrow after Shabbos, you're going to smooth it out, and then you're going to be chayv in truma. What happened was, you decided to start taking piece by piece these kernels. Here, I even have, but this is a big mess. I don't want to, Nachman's next thing. I can't do it really. So I'm not going to mamish do it. No. Here, I'm not going to do it, but it goes something like this. You take these, and you go like this. Oh, here, the kernel came out. This is the whole kernel. By the way, you can't see it really. And this, you just blow away. I'm not going to blow. Fine. Here's some kernels. These are barley, I believe, not wheat. Same thing. Maybe I could show it this way. See it? That's how small it is. One of these is all you have to give for Truma Midaraisa. If I have 1 billion wheat, all I have to do is give one of these. Rabbanan came along and said that you give 2%. Or 1 out of 50, which is 2%, or 1 out of 40. If you're very generous, or if you're a little stingy, 1 out of 60, fine. But lemaisa, at the end of the day, all I have to give is this tiny bit. Great. So, what happened was, he decided to do what I just did. That is the Gemar Malacha. So, sorry, that's not the Gemar Malacha. It says Rashi, amazing. Listen to this. It's a big chap. Since I brought it through the door, and there was no Gemar Malacha. By me thinking in my head that I am going to get the kernel out of the ear. This is the ear, right? These guys are the ears. Getting the kernel out of the ear, that makes the going through the door the Gemar Malacha. You hear what's going on here? Rabbi Schoenberg shaking his head, yes. I could retroactively do a Gemar Malacha in my head. In other words, I brought it through the door. That wasn't the Gemar Malacha. I was supposed to smooth out the pile because Miruach HaKri, because I'm making dough. But now I decided not to make dough. I decided to eat it kernel by kernel. So by me deciding to eat it kernel by kernel, I made the going through the door the Gemar Malacha. And because it's Erev Yom Kippur, I thought about just telling you this thing. I spoke about it many times, but it's kedai to hear it inside. If I could find it. There's a Shulchan Aruch, there's a Sif in Shulchan Aruch that discusses this idea, and it's very, very important for Yom Kippur. And the idea is that I could give you now a trick that won't cost you money, won't cost you kimat time, milliseconds, and you could increase your schusim 100-fold. Everything you do. Says the Mechaber, this is the Shulchan Aruch. V'chein, this is Simin Reish Lamed Aleph. Kedai to look it up. V'chein b'chol mashi yehena b'olam hazeh. Because we're talking about how in your machshav, in your head, you could switch the chiyuv of truma from going on Sunday to right now. V'chein b'chol mashi yehena b'olam hazeh. Anything you benefit in this world, lo yichavin lahanasa, you shouldn't have in mind to your hana, ela la'avodas habayir yizbarach. You're doing it for Hashem. K'dichsiv b'chol d'rochecha do'eyu. In all your ways, you should remember Hashem. This is not a Musa Sefer. This is a Shulchan Aruch. This is a Seif in Shulchan Aruch. This is how you should live your life. What? Yeah, Or Chaim, Simin Reish Lamed. It's the second volume in the Mishnah Berurah. Chelik Beis. V'chol Simin Reish Lamed Aleph. Seif Aleph. It's a giant Seif. The only Seif, I believe. Anything you're permitted to do. Walking, and sitting. The point is, everything you do, you can make it into Avodas Hashem. What you eat, yeah, in brachas I gave it out. You're right. Exactly. Thank you, Hillel, for remembering that. Even though you do eat the rear of the animal, you do remember, when you eat that rear, you should think about this. Fine? And then it says like this. Shem Shomayim, but you could gain tremendous. Who has this card? Levi's walking around with this card since brachas. That's unbelievable. 2 years. Look at this. Zoom in on this card. I made this for everybody. What does it say here? This is the pasuk. Rava. Okay, that's something else. Wow. How many days? 600 days ago, and he's still holding it in his, and look at perfect shape, this guy. Leiby from Koilel. Unbelievable. Leiby Shkoyach. Somebody out there has it still. But the bottom line is here, and then he finishes off. It's a very, very long sif, and he says, Umi shenoye kain oived es boiroi tamid. Whoever thinks about this, so when you take a nap, and he talks about naps, you take a nap, you say, I'm going to sleep now, so I have koyach to work, to be oived you, Hashem. I'm eating this kugel and this chal to be oived you. Everything you do, all you have to think, you just have to think it, because it's all the machshava, and you get that much more schar. So what's the law? Why not? All right. That's the schusim for Yom Kippur. I can't believe it, like, you just gave me a lot of ano. I thought I did it for not. Okay. Omar Abai. The Gemara says it becomes tevel. Tevel means that if you eat something without truma, you chayev misa b'dei shamayim. Ella, my truma, roiv truma. So the Gemara answers, at the end of the day, we're not, you're right. According to Rabbi Yosef, there's a way that you'd be chayev on Yontif to bring truma. Great. In this case, that you moilu malilos. But that's not the typical case of truma. Typically, you don't do it on Shabbos. Us, at home, we're not allowed to take trumas and maasros on Shabbos on a typical Shabbos. Omar Abai, machlokes b'shibolim al b'kitniyos dirakol isur yaso tavla. The whole machlokes is when it comes to grain, but when it comes to kitniyos like beans and things like that, when you put them in a bundle, you don't typically, says Abaya, smooth out a giant pile when it comes to vegetable. You buy a little bundle and Shema Yisrael. Here, I think I have a picture of that's the next thing, but okay. This is a bundle. You have a bundle, 25 pieces, fine. I have a right to. Tilton is chilba, is fenugreek. This is fenugreek right in this picture. If you have this, and I bought this for no reason because that's not what we're talking about. I got yelled at by the spice guy. This is fenugreek. If you want to know what it looks like, here it is. This is what they make chilba out of. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the stalks of chilba. Hareze, if anybody wants chilba here, I don't need it anymore. Hareze koitesh. So if you have these things, when you take it and you pound it a little bit, umechashiv, and he estimates himself how many seeds, how many of these, we do need it, how many of these chilba seeds are in here, and that's how you take trumas and maasros. And he doesn't have to take truma from the actual stalk. Now the Gemara is going to tell us a tremendous chiddush here, because I always mentioned that there are 4 things in Shas that I at least could think of, and this was the hard one to remember. 4 things in Shas that tam eitzo you period shava, that the fruit and the stalk and the branch have. One of them is esrig. What else? Hadassim. And you said pilpil. And here's the 4th one, tilton, fenugreek. These are the 4 things. Finally, we got to it. This is it. My love, Rabbi Yehuda, the Omar, Hasam loy tavla. Only by wheat, by grain, it doesn't become tevel. Hakarat HaTov, but by kidneys, it does become tevel just by putting it in a bundle. Loy, Rebbe. It's Rebbe. No, you have no proof. It might be Rebbe. It might be Rabbi Yossi. I don't know. Rebbe. Ma'ir tilton. Afilu shibalom nami. So why is he talking about fenugreek? Anything. Elamai Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. So what do you want to go back to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda? L'shmin and sharmini kitnis v'kolshin tilton. So then why does it say? Why does it mention fenugreek? What's the point in fenugreek? Ella tilton isrichalei. Ella here, by the way, in just simple pshat in the Gemara, I don't want you to get confused. Ella is not like it seems like, because we're talking about Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Ella, it's going back, says Rashi, to Rebbe. It could also be Rebbe. Ella tilton isrichalei. So I would think since this fenugreek, it tastes just like the branch. So you should take trumsa meisers from the branches. You don't have to. That's the whole chiddush. Okay. Machlokes is in grain, but when it comes to kidneys, beans, and that sort of thing, when you just put in a bundle, it doesn't make it chayiv in trumsa meisers. Meisve, Mishael Chavil Tilton Shatevel Areze Koitesh, Umachashikam Zer Yeshbem, Umafresh Alazera, Benim Mafresh Alait. My love, Tevel Tibul Shel Truma. Now we're talking about before Miruach, and this will be a kashan abayah. Loi, Tevel Tibul Shel Trumas Meiser. So now the Gemara comes up with tremendous chiddush. Very important stuff. Going back to this chart, a boy side memorize, it only takes 2 minutes. If you have a crop, you have to give 2% to the Kohen Truma. Then you have 98% left. From that, you give 10% to the Levi. That's called Meiser. Then the Levi takes his 9.8% and takes 10% of that and gives it to the Kohen. What happened over here is that the Levi jumped the gun and he took his Meiser before Truma G'dayla was taken. That's Issa Deraisa. Because it says in the pasuk, you can't do it out of order. First goes 1, then goes 2. You can't do 2 and then 1. Oh, so what happened is, my love, Loi, tell people should trumas meiser, yeah. Meiser Rishon, Shigdim Mishibalin, Shmai. We're talking, it's the same idea, Rabbi Isai. You have a bunch of grain that you didn't finish the malacha. What's the finishing the malacha? Smoothing out the pile. I have another way to finish the malacha. By the Levi jumping his gun. Gershon, you hear this? You also, you're a Levi, Nachum. If you chap, and there's a problem, if you chap your meiser, Be'ez Hashem, next week, Mashiach comes, somebody gives you meiser. If you chap it before the truma, so you made it a gemar malacha. Now you are chayiv in truma automatically. You don't have to do the miruach hakri, nothing. By you taking it. Shmai, you hear the Gemara says, Shmai toivel trumas meiser. By you taking it and you call it a meiser, by you deciding that you took the meiser, you took 10%, that makes it gemar malacha. And we're going to see in a second, you're going to have another problem. You get a knas for taking it early. Says Gemara, Kodesh Lamali. Why does the Levi have to suffer and pound it out and go from this product to this product and give the Kohen a perfect product? What did he do? Mela the Yisrael, okay, fine. That's what we're going to see in a second. He has to do it like that. But why the Levi? The Levi just took whatever he got from the Yisrael, he should give it on to the Kohen. He got an unfinished product, right? So let him just continue and give 10% of the unfinished product to the Kohen. Why does he have to go through the process of finishing it? The way I got it, I'm giving it to you. Rashi, according to this machlokes here, Rashi learns, since the Levi shouldn't have helped Yisrael to take it earlier, he gets punished. If a Levi gets the grain, he has to make it into, he has to take it apart. He has to make it into wine. Some shemen and olives, he makes into oil. And then he takes that and gives 10% of what he received. In other words, it's like 1%, right? He got 10% of everything, of 98%, and from that 98%, he got 9.8. From the 9.8, he gives 10% to the Kohen, back. But not in the Kohen. Just like Truma, the Yisrael has to give Gorin and Yekev from the finished wheat and from the wine, Trumas Meiser, and he tells Elam and Agorim and Yekev, so to the Levi. Ask the Gemara. We just turned to the Amud Beis, sponsored by the MDY Tehillim group. For those who need Shidduchim Shus Refuas, please join them.imdav.com. And by Shlomo Lalezarian from Los Angeles, in honor of my wife, who's my Nefesh V'Torah. Shkoyach. Oh, you left. Says Gemara, Mechashev. We use the word that all he has to do is estimate the amount he has to give. Says Gemara, Medidabai. When you give the Levi 10%, so it's 10%. Bishloima, the Truma, okay, somewhere, it could be a Mashu, but the 10%, there's no getting away from 10%. So you can't just estimate, what if you gave 9%? You weren't Yaitz, you have to give at least 10%, maybe more. So I looked it up. Yeah, Trumas Meiser, the Levi, his Trumas Meiser, that's what I said. Bishloima, Truma, fine. I'm not saying that you could just get away with Oymen. I'm saying maybe. But Trumas Meiser is 10% and 10%. Hamani Elazar Gimel. Oh, so I said Elazar Gimel, I looked it up, he's only one time in Shas. But my Chavrusa pointed out to me, and I think on the side also it says that Yigaris here Goimel. Yigaris Goimel says a few more times in Shas, maybe Gamliel also. So anyways, Gimel, it only says once, but it's interesting that Rashi says, Yigaris Gimel. That's how Yigaris here. I don't know why he says that. It says, V'nechshav lochem trumaschem. It says by the Levi. It should be considered, V'nechshav, in your head. It should be considered a truma. Trumaschem, doesn't say truma. Trumaschem, plural. V'shtei trumas hakosim medaber. Achas truma g'doyla, achas trumas meiser. And they're both the same. Now what? Kishev, truma g'doyla, and it tells ba'omed u'machshava. Just like truma g'doyla, you could do it, you just estimate. And b'machshava, how do you do b'machshava truma g'doyla? By thinking in your head, you see this whole room, it's full of wheat. The truma is going to come out from the left side, right in the corner, right over there. Left corner, right top shelf. Boom. That becomes truma just because you thought it in your head. So according to this one man, the Omar, you could take trumas meiser, the 10% that the Levi gives, you could take it b'machshava. Oh, that's what you meant. I hear what you said. I said before that the 10% you give to Levi, the trumas meiser the Levi gives. Yeah, you're right. Gufa, Omer Avo, Omer B'Shimon ben Lakish. Meiser Rishon Shigdima B'Shibalim, Shmoi Toiveli Trumas Meiser. We said before that if you jump it, the Levi takes his 10% first, that itself is considered before the Miruach, before anything, that is the Gemar Melacha, Shmoi Toiveli Trumas Meiser. My time, Omer Avo, Hoil V'Yotzal of Shem Meiser. Once the Levi takes it, so why is he taking it? What right does he have to that 10%? Because it's Meiser. Oh, it's Meiser. Now it becomes Meiser, and once it's Meiser, then it evokes all the chiyuvim of Truma and everything else. Or Mishimalakish, Meiser Rishon Shigdim Shibalim Patur Mitruma Gdoila. Shenemar Varemoisim Imenu Trumas Hashem Meiser Mena Meiser. So it goes like this. By the way, I didn't bring this on purpose. It's supposed to be at home, but I see Leiby here and my Rebbe, my Chavrusa. This is the picture I wanted to show yesterday, but if you're watching on YouTube, you see it probably anyway. But this is the picture of the Matnas Kuhuna I give him, and here's Leiby. Shkoyach. How many years ago? This is like 3 years ago, no?
Less gray hair.
What's less gray but longer beard? What's Pshat? Okay. Oh no, I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for. Don't tell me I didn't print it. Ay, what's with me? I don't know if I saved it. I really don't know. Let me just make sure I didn't bring it because it's a good one. Hold on. It looks like the chart of Truma and I stole the whole chart of Trumas and Meisers. And okay. I'll just say about Peh. It's very simple. But in chart it's nicer. If we do it properly, the kohen gets 2%. So he gets 2%. There's no, okay. But if we flip it, and we give the Meiser Rishon first, so now 10% is gone. So now I have 90%. If you're going to give the kohen his truma now, 2% of 90%, you're at 1.8. So he lost 0.2. That's the whole thing over here. The kohen, by you going out of order, he loses 0.2 because now you're taking 2% out of 90% because you're missing the 10% that the Levi took. Great. Shenemar, you don't give Truma G'dayla and Trumas Meiser, Mr. Levi. You only give one. You only give the 10% from your 10%, but don't worry about the coin. If you gave Meiser before it was, what happens if you gave the Levi the Meiser before it became, after it's already finished, there's a Gemara Malacha. The Levi is not mechuyev to give it to the Kohen based on this pasuk. Omar lei, Alech Omar Kro, Mikol Mas Yisechem Torimu. It's called Trumas Hashem. There's a pasuk that says no, he is mechuyev. So on the one hand, we have a pasuk that says the Levi is not mechuyev. The other pasuk says the Levi is mechuyev. So which one is it? Umar Isa, who told you where to put the pasuk? Says the Gemara, Hay Idgan v'Hay Loi Idgan. If it's Idgan, meaning this picture right over here, it's Kri. Idgan. This would be Idgan. Miruach, what we call Miruach, if it's Idgan, so now there's a Chiyuv Truma. So there's a Chiyuv Truma, then the Levi got it in a state of Chiyuv Truma. He already had, there's an obligation to give Truma, and he got his 10%. So he's mechuyev to give from his 10% back to the Kohen. But if it wasn't smoothed out, and the Yisrael gave it to him beforehand, so there's no Chiyuv Truma, so the Levi is not mechuyev to give the Kohen back his 0.2 that he's missing. Not awesome. Hamakalev So'irim. So that we went through, we don't want to do it again. But you take off the shell of the ear of the barley. Mikalev achas achas v'oichel. He can eat one barley at a time. Here's a barley. One of these, you can't even see it on the camera. One of these at a time. What is that called? Achila zarai. Achila zarai is fine. And if he peeled it off and he put it into his hand, he starts gathering. Chayav. Now you're chayav and meiser. You're not just eating it, as a nash. Now you start to gather. You put 1, 2, 3. So now you're chayav. Omer Belazar v'chein l'Shabbos. So if I start gathering, I go like that. So I'm chayav for meleches dash, not really dash. It's mefarek, breaking things apart, taking things apart on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Eini v'Rav mekalfalei dvisu kosi kosi. Rav's wife used to give him a whole kos, a big amount, a large amount on Shabbos. So you see a lot of gather. It's not mefarek. Rav accepted it from her. Reb Chia mekalfalei devisu kosi kosi. And Reb Chia, his wife also. Listen to this, Rabbi says yesterday, as I was learning with my chavrus, I said, isn't Rav's wife like a bad woman, like a very tough woman? He's like, yeah, Yavam is in the Samachs. Right away, he goes to the thing. I'm not kidding you. 20 seconds later, yeah, that Gemara, he points it to me. Daf Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. And what's amazing is that it's these two people right here, Rav and Reb Chia. The Gemara over there brings both of the ways. I got to read this to you. It's Geshmaki Gemara. It says like this. First of all, Rav have a miftah mi Reb Chia. When Rav used to say goodbye to his son, he said, Hashem should save you from something that's worse than death. Is something worse than death? Yeah, your wife. So the Gemara says, why? Rav, his wife used to give him trouble. And every time he used to say, give me tloifchi, she used to make chimtzi. And every time he said chimtzi, she used to make tloichi. So when Chia got older, says the Gemara, he knew that his father wanted tilfchi. So he said, please make chimtzi. So she made tilfchi. So he goes, wow, my wife is unbelievable. She's changing. She's doing tshuva. She made the food I wanted. She says, no, I tricked her. So he says, limdu l'shoinim da b'sheker. You're not allowed to do that. It's not, she's evil. She likes to make fakert. We gotta roll with her. To say fakert, greivis das, limdu l'shoinim da b'sheker. Unbelievable. Says the Gemara weiter, v'Rav Chia, his wife is also a troublemaker. And he finds something, you give it to her. So he says, why, if you find something, why do you give it to your wife? Omar le, dayenu shemigalis b'neinu matzilas yisonu menachet. finished. Okay, and the story, the bottom line is, the wife is very good. She's matzal menachet. Even if she's a terrible, terrible woman that makes the opposite dinners, you ask for steak and she makes you pizza and pizza steak, she's still a moedik thing. If you find the mitzvah, you should give it to her. Anyway, Zakti Gemara. We obviously don't have these kind of problems. Rav and Rav Eli. Yeah. Eloi itmar seif itmar moelim shel chitim min apeach al yad v'oichel. Al yad, what do we say al yad means? Not miyad yad, but al yad means a small amount. B'mnipach, mamish, to blow, v'nosan toicheko, you put it into your lap, you start gathering, chayev. Omer Belazar, v'chein l'Shabbos, same halach as the Shabbos. Maskal Rabbi Memel, v'reisha l'maisa in l'Shabbos loy. Oh, did I skip something? Yeah, because the Gemara had to say, oh yeah, Eini v'aram v'gam l'visu, you see you're allowed to gather. Elid ma seifit mar. It's not talking about the ratio. That's a different thing. If you rub off the peel, so you're allowed to blow it away, but don't gather. That's what he said. That you're over if you start gathering. So you're telling me that to be chayiv in meiser, you just rub off the peel, you're chayiv. But to be over on dash and mefarek on Shabbos, rubbing is nothing. As the Gemara, that can't be. Why? In Shabbos, what? For Shabbos, for meiser you're over, but for Shabbos you're not. It's not. How's it possible? Isn't Shabbos more chomer than everything? So he counterattacks him. There's a concept of making a pile when it comes to meiser. And that same pile, you don't do anything. You're not over anything on Shabbos. It's not. It says in the Mishnah. Eze garden on the meiser. These vegetables, hakishuyim v'adiluim. When it comes to cucumbers, I actually went to the store yesterday. I wasted time to look for this, but I couldn't find any. I remember seeing it sometimes, especially here in Israel. Sometimes they forget to take that little flour off. There's like a little white flour or something. No, am I making this up? Pumpkin sometimes. I don't know. The bottom line is, when this flour falls off the cucumber or the gourd, then there's a chiyuv meiser. Hagishuim aduim mishipaksu kuf samach vav mishipaksu. When it falls off the flour, v'shaloi piksu mishiyamid arema. Or when you make a pile, usnaga namigav solim mishiyamid arema, you make a pile. Shabbos hamodas arema potter. Oh, you see that meiser is more chomer than Shabbos. By meiser, when you make a pile, you chayiv. By Shabbos, pile is nothing. What's the reason? Because when it comes to Shabbos, you have to do something professional, like to make a pile. Even a kid can make a pile. Okay, we'll go 2 lines more. Why not? It's only 8 o'clock. How do you rub this peel off? One finger on one finger. One finger on 2 fingers, like this. Rav Omar, what's the difference? You're not using a machine. You're doing it in a funny way. You're doing it kilachar yad. You're going everything, the whole hand. Adkan, have a wonderful day.